Jai Bhim. It's my pleasure to have been invited to this great function, that too in a place where Babasaheb worked and built this entire institution. I am happy to all the courtesies extended to me and also allowed me to speak to you a few words. It's a pity that I am not able to speak to you in Marathi. Please forgive me for that. At the same time, the issue focused by Babasaheb Ambedkar is a very important, timely, and the need of the hour. It is in that sense I would like to share some of my ideas and also experience. When I came to this meeting, I was wearing a Hawaii slipper. Even some of the organizers were looking at it. How come I'm wearing a Hawaii slipper? I am only reminded 2 weeks before, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi said in a meeting, "It is my dream that a person wearing a Hawaii slipper is able to fly in the aircraft." Maybe it is his dream. At that time, I said in a meeting that, Prime Minister, you must know one thing, that majority in this country cannot wear any slippers in this country. Even if they do have one, majority cannot walk in their own village streets with a slipper wearing. People are not allowed. Therefore, when you are going to concentrate the underprivileged of this country, who are being denied every kind of a civic right, 1/5 of the Indian population of nearly 1.4 billion have not been recognized as human beings. Where is the question of your thinking? My dream is for people with Hawaii slipper to fly in aircraft. First, allow them to wear their own slippers in their own villages. Allow them to walk with their own slipper in their own villages. Even some of our courts, the people who belong to class 4 service, when they come into our room, they can't wear the slippers. I ask the question, what prevents them from wearing their own footwear? They are not asking you to supply extra footwear, making the government to pay money. When they come from home, they leave the slippers in their own office room and then come barefoot all the time. Does it mean that the justice system, does it mean the judiciary, does it mean the courthouse is a place of worship, is a place where people come to worship? Now, if judges do think in these lines, you may understand what kind of a justice they may render in courts. This is a fundamental question. We are seeking for justice and the justice is elusive. When I asked about the wearing slipper, it's a very important issue. It's not an issue to say that if people, the Hawaii slipper should fly. As a Prime Minister of this country, you must realize, make the people to wear their own slippers, make them to walk in their own streets, and make them to realize this is a sovereign democratic republic and every person can do what they do in terms of the constitution. And therefore, this issue that there has been a treatment of people on the basis of caste, discrimination on the basis of caste. Now, if you think our constitution, so beautifully drafted, so beautifully carved out from several provisions, where is the heart of the constitution? In fact, 3 years back, there was a Hindi film by title Article 15. The director of the film was asked, the constitution has got 397 provisions. Why is that you are saying 15? Then he said that in the last 20th century, people have not been allowed to have any equality. People have not been allowed to enter into public spaces. People are not allowed to enter into temples. People are not allowed to enter into tanks and other waterways. People have not been allowed to enter into educational institutions. This is the first time, though Article 14 talks about equality before law and equal protection of law, Article 15 is the first time declares that nobody in this country will be discriminated on the ground of religion, on the ground of caste, on the question of language, on the question of area, on the question of gender, on the question of descent. This is the first time the Constitution declares, after 20 centuries of struggle, after the 20 centuries of slavery, after the 20 centuries of caste hegemony, we are the first time the state guaranteed that there shall not be any discrimination. Therefore, the director said, the heart of the constitution is Article 15. We must be proud that we have a constitution like this. In fact, once Babasaheb said about the Brahmins and also about how the cunningness in which they operate, he said, the Ramayana, the greatest Itihas, was not written by a Brahmin. The Mahabharata was also not written by a Brahmin. When they want to write the constitution, they call me who's a Mahar. It only shows that this country, people who give, people who provide the intellectual support are the people who below in the ladder. And therefore he said that in this country, we must have a constitution which will govern us. We will have a constitution which will be democratic. We will have a constitution which will have a republic in this country. And I am emphasizing the constitution because there are attempts in this country today to subvert the constitution, to derail the constitution, to make the constitution taken away from the common people of this country. A need has come where we must defend this constitution. Some 6 months back in Varanasi, some of the Hindu sadhus, I don't know, they have better work to do. Suddenly they thought about the Indian constitution and they had a meeting of a satsang meeting of all sadhus. And then why should they discuss about constitution? I don't know what connection they have. But then they discussed and then said India must have a Hindu constitution. This is something very shocking. We have a constitution which has been functioning for the last 72 years. In our own subcontinent, countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal and Sri Lanka suffering, having problems with the constitution. We are able to make one single constitution, of course with amendment. Amendments is the need of the hour and therefore we are not questioning that. Constitution is not a document where it's a holy scripture. It is not a scripture at all. On the other hand, it should provide for the need of the people. It is in this sense, some few sadhus, maybe they have something wrong in their mind, they said, we are going to propose a new constitution, which is the Hindu constitution. What about others? They said the Christians and Muslims can make money, they can live in this country, but they cannot vote. The adult suffrage, where every person who's become 18 years old, it was 21 years at the time of the constitution, they are entitled to have vote and elect their leaders. Now, there are some sadhus who say that the other religion people cannot be allowed to vote. This is something which is very serious danger that we are facing. It is in that sense that we have now come to define this constitution, which has been so laboriously built, which has been so painfully constructed, which has been hundreds of discussions took place and there are brilliant replies by Dr. Ambedkar in the assembly. One of the brilliant replies you could have ever thought of. And then this constitution is now sought to be subverted. Now, the question before us is, should we have a sovereign, democratic, socialist, secular republic, or as some people pronounce, that it should be a country of one religion, one nation, one religion, one leader, and then they have to say one food also. This is something which we'll have to take this message to the people. Now the constitution, at the time it was framed, Dr. Ambedkar gave a reply in the assembly, Constituent Assembly, after the final draft was circulated on 26 November 1949, which is being celebrated as the Constitution Day. He told the House that I have given this Constitution to you. It is for you to work or to destroy it. We have got political freedom, but where is the economic freedom? Where is the social freedom? Unless we achieve a social freedom and an economic freedom, this country will go into pieces. He said, the sooner the better that we provide such freedoms in this country, and it is left to the administrators of this country to come forward with further reforms in this country. But what we see in the last 72 years, in the last 72 years since we got independent, 72 years since we got the constitution, what is that we got? One question comes, question of untouchability. There are many people who think that this is only a paper proposition. There is no evidence for it. On the other hand, every year after year, the National Commission of the Scheduled Castes has prepared a report which is placed in the Parliament. If you have any occasion to read, please read the report. Some 200 pages of several atrocities against the Dalit people, against the Scheduled Caste people. And then that is placed before the Parliament. For what reason? Now the question comes, I must tell you, it has got an international ramification. People must have read 2 weeks before, the Seattle municipality, the Seattle corporation in America passed a resolution that there shall not be any caste discrimination in Seattle. Suddenly, some of the NRIs, suddenly some of the people who are here started saying, why should America talk about this? The people who brought the resolutions are Indians. The people who passed the resolution are NRIs. And they feel that notwithstanding you are going abroad, notwithstanding you are earning tons of money, notwithstanding you are moving in an interracial society, that there are people who carry the very same caste system. Dr. Ambedkar had known this before. He is a person who is able to vision. People asked him, what do you say about intercaste marriages? He said, interracial marriage may work in America. A black and a white marry, tomorrow he may become little black or little white, but then the color may change. But in India, the caste may not change. If two people marry out of caste, one may say, we will give our children this caste, and that will be always a caste other than the scheduled caste. Therefore, he said, while I don't oppose any intercaste marriage, I am very sure that this may not work. And today we find people, even they move abroad, they go to far advanced Western society, they go to far advanced societies like North America, they carry the caste, they carry the discrimination. Not one or two incidents. In fact, California is now toying with the idea of passing a legislation this way. 2 years back in London, in United Kingdom, a bill was brought in that there shall not be a discrimination in UK on the basis of caste. The caste has been recognized as an important factor where in Indian society, the caste hierarchy oppresses the people who are in the caste and who are outside the caste. There are Avarnas and there are Savarnas. Merely because you say Savarnas, they don't cease to be human beings in this country. But then what is happening today has been recognized some of the Western countries. And then in UK, the law has been passed. But in the Indian community there, mostly the caste Hindus, mostly the Brahminical caste, they now say, what is the use of having an anti-racial law in what is the point in saying a race is equal to caste discrimination? Now, this is a very fundamental issue, friends. I must tell you, from 4 years back, there was a conference in Johannesburg. The question was whether the caste discrimination should be equated with racist discrimination. Several NGOs, several Dalit supporters, several Dalit intellectuals brought a resolution requesting the conference, it is an anti-racist conference, they requested the organizers, you must add along with racism, caste discrimination. Now, the opposition comes not from anybody else, from the Indian representatives representing the government of India, saying that you should not bring caste to outside India. We may perish, we may live together, but no question of telling outside India what is the position in India. This is a very, very nasty situation. You may kill people, you may keep them slaves, you must also deny them every right, but you cannot complain anywhere. This is a very double standard that we are talking about. Recently, there was a film, BBC documentary, where it was shown. Suddenly, everybody said, no, this should not be shown. Bihar, the Gujarat, it should not be shown. Now, government of India, why is that afraid of BBC documentary? Now, that has been prohibited. Anybody can say today, because today, thanks to the information revolution, anybody on a touch of button can see whatever you prohibit. Your writ will not lie to a social media. But still, the concept, the idea, the reason behind denial is some foreign powers are trying to set up against the Indian government. This was super. I was a student in 1975 when the emergency was declared in this country, internal emergency for 2 years. People like Lalu Prasad, Jai Prakash Narayan, Advani, Vajpayee, even Narendra Modi was arrested under the Maintenance of Internal Security Act, an act which is called MISA, has no trial. There is no rule of law. If a district magistrate wants, he can put you inside for a period of 1 year, and it can be extended also. Now, when Advani, when Modi, when Vajpayee was arrested, the Indian papers did not carry the news. It was a BBC which was broadcasting. Most of us students who used to listen every day to BBC and then write in a paper and then make copies, because newspapers were silent, newspapers were censored, newspapers do not carry correct news. Therefore, they read. People get news. The question is, how do I get the news? How do I get my people know the correct news? Even Modi's arrest was broadcasted by BBC, not by All India Radio. Therefore, today you take a double standard. Those days it is welcome. Today they are foreign powers. This is something which never can be allowed. There are many people who say, in fact, when Amazon used to arrange some intellectual discussion, they invited a scholar who's a Dalit scholar to speak in Amazon. The other employees who are working in Amazon, they gave a protest note saying that this lady will be speaking about the caste factor in India, which is an eyesore. They should not be allowed to speak because all of us will be affected. And what way you will be affected? If the truth is told, sometimes truth may be a little hot, sometimes truth may be a little warm, and therefore you can't digest. Because you have been suppressing in this country, you have been last 20 centuries, you have been a superior claim. I am asking you a simple question. Today you take all the high courts, they call it as a Nyayalaya. In the Nyayalaya, there is only one high court which has got Ambedkar statue, is Madras High Court. There is another high court which is having a different statue. You go to Jaipur bench of the Rajasthan High Court, there is a Manu statue is there. Has anybody seen Manu? And there are still doubt how many Manus are there in this country, because there are different Manusmritis are being published. This man is that year, this man that year. Whatever Manu writes, how does he find a place in a High Court of Judicature, which is functioning under the Constitution of India, which under Article 15(2) removes every kind of discrimination based on caste and religion. And here is a Smriti which talks about Brahmin superiority, which talks about differential punishment. And then you have a statue. The difference between Jaipur statue and the Madras statue is only one thing. In Manu, in Rajasthan, Jaipur, there is no protection at all. He is just free, nobody can touch him. And he is still free, there is no barricade around him. If you come to Chennai, if you come to the Madras High Court, you will find there is a barricade around. Wherever Dr. Ambedkar statue is there, they put a wire mesh, they put an iron grill, they put a lock and key. A man who gave this constitution to this country, how does you give him a life sentence by locking him his statue? Should people think that this is a man who is a constitutional visionary? This is a man who participated in 2.5 years of dispute of a very great length. He has participated in the debate in the Constituent Assembly. Now he has been shown that you will be under lock and key. This is the double standard that we are now talking about. That you have a constitutional visionary, but then you put him in a joint. If Manu can be there without any protection, that few years back some two women went and tried to put some tar, they were arrested. And then a discussion came in the Rajasthan High Court. Why should we have a statue? And some judges said it should be removed. Somebody goes to the civil court and get an injunction. And the injunction continues for 20 years. Now should we think that this country is meant for Manuwadis or Ambedkarwadi? Which is the scientific way of living? Which is the India that it can carry forward? This is the first question that comes. And then after 72 years, we now talk about why should the foreign country discuss our problem? The Amazon, which is supposed to be internationally a multinational company, which is also having a several platform which can where people always think that these platforms are meant for a free trade of views, but it's not true at all. In fact, when Jai Bhim was taken, Amazon said you must get censorship certificate. When censor it went to them, censor gave 47 cuts. Every police scene was removed, as if police stations are oases of peace, as if police stations are some guest house. That the film director refused to comply with the cut. The result was the film was given A certificate, adults only. The people, others can pick it up. The only redeeming feature, it was shown in an OTT platform, therefore everybody is seeing it. But the point is, the double standard adopted by the media platform. This platform says go and submit yourself to the domestic laws. They submitted to the defense laws. Therefore, when Amazon, having invited this lady to speak on the discrimination in India, suddenly cancel that meeting. This is how we have a freedom of expression in a great country like America. Therefore, we should understand one thing. Where does the freedom of expression come in? Where does the freedom of expression guaranteed? Is it guaranteed here or guaranteed here, guaranteed elsewhere? Now that question comes, the freedom of expression, as John as said, that you will have to have a vigilant approach where constant vigilance is the price of freedom. There is nobody is going to give you all this freedom. Today, if the freedom is going to be denied, we must defend our own freedom. There is no court, there is no other mechanism by which we will defend our own freedom. It is this lesson that we must keep on remember in our mind. This is a question which we keep on asking. Now, everybody says, for example, the Constitution talks about fraternity, equality, and liberty. We were all in the law college learning constitutional law, and some of the teachers started telling these three words, very important words of the Constitution. As you enter the Constitution, it's part of the preamble. It is the heart of the Constitution. It says fraternity, liberty, and equality. Now, we were taught in our colleges that this is some French concept. It's a part of the French Revolution. We were also believing, because our teachers are saying, we didn't have any other method. Like today, you can Google everything and find out what they are saying, truth or not. But those days, it is not. Only few books are available. And coming from poor families, we can't even afford to buy books. It is in that sense we believe. After a long time, we came to know Dr. Ambedkar himself made a great speech in the All India Radio in 1954. At that time, he was a central minister. Therefore, All India Radio allowed him to speak. Otherwise, they won't allow him to speak. I know many times when radio invites you to talk, when Doordarshan invites you to talk, they also have some kind of free censorship. They won't allow you. But then Ambedkar's speech today, you can see it you can Google the speech and see one of the brilliant speech. In that he says that these three words, people think that I borrowed from the French Revolution. They are wrong. I am a disciple of Buddha. I carry his messages all over the world. And these three words are taken from the Buddha, the Dhamma. And I am as a duty servant of Lord Buddha, I will carry this message of peace. He also said, this has got a century, 4,000 years of tradition in this country. When such great things are said about Dr. Ambedkar, why is that now we have a different approach by this government, or any government for that matter, or any community for that matter? In fact, we are keep on saying that why there must be so much antagonism on this issue. We are now celebrating a festival, so many thousand people are here, and then we keep remembering the great contribution made by Dr. Ambedkar. But in the ground level, we have a different approach. In fact, in Tamil Nadu, there was a Christian priest in Kanyakumari district, southernmost district of Tamil Nadu. There are considerable Christian presence in that district. One priest in one meeting said, among his own followers, they say lay person, he told them that my grandfather was a Hindu, but then he doesn't want my father to become a Hindu, so we got converted to Christian, and then from him I also became a Christian, and I thank my grandfather that we have now changed our position. This is what he has said. Nothing wrong in saying. Immediately a criminal case was filed. What criminal case? He said the fact, he told the fact to his own people, and now the criminal case was challenged in the Madurai High Court. You must see the judgment. George Ponnaya was his inspector of police, Kanyakumari district. You must read the judgment. How much hypocrisy that we are building into this issue. The judge wrote, dismissing the petition, saying, it may be the argument advanced on behalf of the Christian priest was, in annihilation of caste, Dr. Ambedkar has said like this. In Diksha Bhumi, he said, I was born as a Hindu, I will not die as a Hindu. This is what he has said. And he has not said anything more than that. If Ambedkar said, I am only quoting him. The judge writes, Dr. Ambedkar can say all this, but you cannot say all this. What is the hypocrisy that we are going through that? If the judges are going to take such kind of a double speak, if judges are going to be colored by a different colored school of thought, then where is the justice in this country? That's the most important thing. More than the government, more than the parliament, we look towards the judiciary to give certain amount of relief as being an umpire between the oppression, between the government and the legislature on the one side and the people on the other side. When we look forward to them, their performance becomes very disappointing. In fact, you know, when the amendment to the SC/ST Act came in 2016-14, the act was under challenge. The Supreme Court said, no, the law is being misused. This act is bad. You are entitled to get bail, though the act says no bail. Then the matter is being reviewed. There was also a lot of protests all over the country, and I am told about 14 people died due to firing all over India. Now, this made the parliament to amend the act and then say the old position should be there. No anticipatory bail for the accused because they are perpetrated of a serious offence, an offence which is prohibited by the Constitution. Now, the Supreme Court, second time, says this law is valid. And now, between these two between these two judgments, how many cases have gone out of court? How many cases have been quashed on the ground? The law is different. Now, this is something which we constantly have to ask ourselves. When we send people to the judiciary, we ask them, do you believe in this constitution? Do you have faith in this constitution? Are you taking the oath that I will uphold the constitution without fear or favor, without ill will? To the best of my knowledge and ability, I will defend the constitution. Having taken the oath, if you still believe in this constitution, you should uphold the constitution. If you have any doubt, some people said about my judgment, my book, where I said my judgments in the light of Ambedkar. When I gathered all these cases relating to caste, relating to religion, how to find, there are no laws, the constitution is not very clear on this issue. You must have some input to write a judgment. It is the Ambedkar's writing which gave us more light to write these judgments. Therefore, I said, if you want to write, if you want to deal with caste, if you want to deal with religion, you will have to read Ambedkar first. Therefore, my book said, my judgments in the light of Ambedkar. Some TV anchor was very upset with my book. So he asked me, Justice Chandru, you are saying in the light of Ambedkar, somebody will say Savarkar, somebody will say Golwalkar. I said, go to hell. Let them say whatever they want. Today it's a fact. You can't decide matters without reading Ambedkar. He is an authority on the question of religion. He is an authority on the question of caste. And therefore, my book contains profuse quotations from his selected work. And I thought it's my duty, because some of my judgments are not reported in Law Journal. Perhaps they are adopting some modern untouchability. Therefore, I thought I will publish my own book. Today, we'll have to do our own trumpet. Nobody else will trumpet for us. And therefore, we'll have to keep on trumpet. And having published the book, it's my duty to take the book to the wider audience. It will be now translated in several languages also. But what is most important is, I am reminded, a leading Dalit leader of Tamil Nadu, he said in one of these book introduction meetings, he made a very pertinent point. There is an Ambedkar for the scheduled caste people. What we need, an Ambedkar for the non-scheduled caste people. That alone can remove prejudice in this country. That alone can make constitution more meaningful. That alone can make this country continue to be a modern democratic republic. And in this function, except these few way of introduction, let me thank the organizers who called me to this meeting. Let me thank them for giving me an opportunity to hear my views. And I feel, and I also feel more enthused coming to Aurangabad, a land where Babasaheb lived and also gave effect to his own mission. I was able to see his museum in the college, and I was touched by the kind of simplicity in which he lived, like a monk. And therefore, this is something for the youth to imbibe this spirit of Ambedkar, and this spirit must be carried further and further. And therefore, in this way, a festival like this will be allowed to bring back the reminiscence of Dr. Ambedkar teaching, and also bring back people from all over India to have a confluence where we carry forward with our cherished ideas, with our nostalgic experiences back to our own state, and then with double enthusiasm we work in the cause of social justice. Thank you.